in life when people will try to hurt you, disappoint you, or take advantage of you. It's easy to become consumed by the pain of betrayal, the injustice of misunderstanding, or the weight of someone's unkind words. But I am here to tell you today, leave them to God. Don't carry that burden on your shoulders. Don't waste your energy trying to fight battles that were never meant for you to fight. God is your defender, your protector, and your vindicator. You see, when you hold on to resentment, when you hold on to unforgiveness, it doesn't just hurt the person who wronged you, it hurts you. It weighs you down. It keeps you from moving forward. God never intended for you to walk through life burdened by the negativity of others. His word says, vengeance is mine, not yours. He is the ultimate judge. He sees the heart of every person. He knows what is done in secret, what is said behind closed doors, and he will handle it according to his perfect will. When you try to take matters into your own hands, when you try to fix everything yourself, you're stepping outside of God's purpose for your life. You were not designed to be a judge. You were not created to hold grudges. You were created to rise above, to walk in love, and to trust that the God who created the heavens and the earth is fully capable of handling every situation, every person, and every moment that comes your way. Now, I know it's difficult. I know you may feel the pain of betrayal deep in your heart. But remember, your peace, your joy, your purpose is too valuable to let someone else rob you of it. Let go of the bitterness, let go of the anger, and release it into God's hands. He will fight for you in ways you cannot imagine. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to try to make people see the truth. God will expose what needs to be exposed, and he will elevate you in his perfect timing. When you let go, when you trust God with the people who have hurt you, you free yourself from the chains that bind you. You allow space for God to work in your life in a way that only he can. So let them be. Leave them to God. Trust that he is in control. When people betray you, when they lie about you, when they talk behind your back, don't fight back. Don't seek revenge. Just trust that God is working it out for your good. He's making a way where there seems to be no way. He's preparing you for greater things. He's turning your pain into purpose. Trust God, my friend. He will never fail you. He will never abandon you. He will always fight for you. Leave them to God. Let him handle what you cannot. Your life is bigger than their small minds, their small plans, and their small views of you. Keep moving forward. God is with you, and he will ensure that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. There are moments in life when people will try to hurt you, disappoint you, or take advantage of you. It's a harsh reality that no one is exempt from. The pain of betrayal, the sting of being misunderstood, or the wound of someone's unkind words can feel like a heavy weight on your soul. These experiences can leave you feeling broken, confused, and disillusioned. You might even find yourself constantly revisiting the hurt, replaying the situation over and over in your mind, questioning what went wrong, and asking why it happened. It's natural to feel this way when we've been wronged. But here's what I want you to understand. While the pain is real, it doesn't have to control your life. The betrayal, the disappointment, the injustice, they are not your responsibility to fix. You don't have to carry that burden. It's easy to become consumed by the actions of others, to let their words or behavior dictate your mood, your peace, and even your purpose. But the truth is, they don't have the power to determine your future unless you allow them to. The pain may come, but you have the choice to not let it overwhelm you. You don't have to let the hurt of one moment define your entire journey. Life will throw challenges at you, yes, but it is how you respond that truly matters. You must decide that while people may cause you pain, they will not steal your peace. You must rise above it, not because you are ignoring the hurt, but because you are choosing to move forward despite it. It is in letting go of that pain, in choosing not to allow the actions of others to dictate your emotional state, that you regain control over your life. Don't give them that power. Let them be, and let God handle what you cannot. When you hold on to resentment, when you hold on to unforgiveness, it doesn't just hurt the person who wronged you, it hurts you. It weighs you down, it occupies your thoughts, it consumes your energy, and it keeps you from moving forward. You may think that by holding on to that anger or bitterness, you're somehow making the person who hurt you pay. But the truth is, it only traps you in a cycle of negativity. Every time you replay that hurt, every time you replay that disappointment, you're allowing that person to continue to have control over your emotional state. And not only do they control your emotions, but they also control your actions and your mind. It's like you're in a prison and the key to your freedom is in your own hands. But instead of unlocking the door, you're clinging to the bars. Unforgiveness holds you captive, keeps you stuck in the past, and prevents you from stepping into the fullness of your future. It's like carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Every rock represents a hurt, a betrayal, a disappointment. The more rocks you collect, the heavier the load becomes, and eventually it gets so heavy that you can't move forward. It's exhausting to carry that weight, to constantly feel burdened by the things that happen to you. But when you let go of that resentment, when you release the pain and choose to forgive, you free yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're condoning what was done to you. It doesn't mean you're excusing the behavior or allowing it to happen again. Forgiveness means you are choosing to stop allowing that hurt to have power over you. You are choosing peace. You are choosing freedom. You are choosing to live your life without being shackled by the past. God never intended for you to live in the past, for you to remain stuck in the hurts of yesterday. You were created to live in the present and walk confidently into the future He has for you. Holding on to resentment only keeps you from fulfilling your true purpose. It keeps you from being the person God created you to be. When you forgive, you don't just let the other person go, you let yourself go. You set yourself free to be who you were meant to be. You make space for new opportunities, new relationships, and new blessings. Holding on to that anger only limits you. Letting go of it allows you to expand and grow. So release the weight of resentment. Let go of the bitterness that's been weighing you down. It's time to move forward, to live freely, to embrace the life God has for you. You see, God is your ultimate defender, your protector, and your vindicator. It's easy to forget this when we're faced with injustice, when people do us wrong, or when we feel that the world is against us. In those moments, our instinct is to fight back, to defend ourselves, to prove we're right, and to make sure that those who wronged us face the consequences of their actions. But that's not God's way. God sees everything. He sees the things that no one else sees. He knows the intentions behind people's actions, even when they try to hide it. While we may not always understand why certain things happen, we can trust that God is always aware of the situation and is working behind the scenes to bring justice in His own perfect way. God's power to defend and protect you is far beyond anything you could do on your own. The Bible says the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still, Exodus 14:14. This doesn't mean you're passive or inactive. It means you trust in His ability to handle what you cannot. When you give your battles to God, you're acknowledging that His ways are higher than your ways and His thoughts are higher than your thoughts. He has a greater perspective and His timing is perfect. When you let go of trying to fight your own battles, you make room for God to step in and fight for you in a way that will bring ultimate peace and resolution. God's defense over your life is not about revenge. It's not about hurting those who hurt you. It's about restoring you to a place of peace, joy, and purpose. When God steps in, He doesn't just deal with the person who hurt you. He deals with the situation in its entirety. He will heal the wounds, mend the brokenness, and restore the lost years. He will make sure that what was meant for harm will ultimately be turned for your good. What may have been meant to destroy you will be used to build you up and strengthen your character. Trusting God as your defender also means trusting His ability to protect you from future harm. He is your shield and your fortress. His protection is not just a reaction to what has already happened, but also a proactive measure to keep you safe from harm. When you put your trust in Him, you're walking in a place of security, knowing that nothing can touch you unless He allows it. And if He allows something to happen, it's because He has a greater purpose in it that will work out for your good in the end. This kind of trust allows you to walk in freedom, free from the fear of what others may try to do to you. You don't have to worry about the outcome. You don't have to manipulate situations or try to control everything around you. Let God fight your battles. His defense is not limited by what you can see or what you can do. His power is limitless, His wisdom is boundless, and His love for you is unconditional. You can rest in the assurance that God will defend you, vindicate you, and restore you. He will protect your heart, your reputation, and your future. And when he defends you, it's not just a temporary solution, it's a permanent victory. The Bible is very clear when it says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, Romans 12:19. This powerful statement serves as a reminder that revenge, payback, or even the desire to make things right through our own strength is not our responsibility. So often we feel that we must take matters into our own hands because we believe if we don't act, things will remain unfair or we'll never see justice. But here's the truth: God is the ultimate judge, and his judgment is always just, always righteous, and always timely. His perspective on any situation is far greater than ours, and his ability to bring about justice far exceeds anything we can do in our limited capacity. When we try to take vengeance into our own hands, we risk acting out of emotion, which can lead to destruction. We may make choices that harm us in the long run or tarnish our integrity simply because we're trying to fix something that only God can truly resolve. Think about it for a moment. When you seek vengeance, you are not only hurting the person who wronged you, but also tainting your own spirit. The desire for revenge can cloud your judgment, fill your heart with bitterness, and poison your future. It turns you into someone who is constantly looking back at the pain and injustice, preventing you from moving forward into the future God has for you. But when you leave vengeance to God, you step out of the equation and allow him to work on your behalf. God sees everything and he doesn't miss a detail. He knows the hidden motives of the hearts of men. He knows what was done in secret, and he knows what people are truly deserving of. He does not act impulsively or emotionally. His judgment is founded on his perfect wisdom, love, and justice. So when you leave vengeance to God, you can trust that he will bring about the right outcome. He doesn't just look at the surface, he looks at the heart and the deeper issues that are at play, and he will deal with them in a way that brings ultimate peace, restoration, and righteousness. God's way of dealing with injustice is always for your good. Even when we can't see how or when he will act, we can trust that his timing is perfect. Sometimes we might feel that justice is delayed, but remember, God operates outside of time. His delay is not a denial. He is giving people time to repent. He is working things out behind the scenes, and he is preparing you for a greater purpose. Trusting in God's judgment means trusting his process. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to release the situation into his hands, knowing that he will bring a resolution that is far better than anything you could orchestrate on your own. Furthermore, we allow ourselves to move forward with peace in our hearts. The more we hold on to a desire for revenge, the more we remain attached to the negativity of the situation. We keep the wound fresh and open, unable to heal. But when we release the situation and trust God's justice, we free ourselves. We allow ourselves to let go of the bitterness, the anger, and the hurt that only serves to weigh us down. God's justice is not just about punishing the wrongdoer, it's also about healing the wounded, restoring the broken, and bringing peace to the heart of the one who has been wronged. So leave the vengeance to God. Trust that he will make things right in his perfect way, and in doing so, you will experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. When you let go and leave it to God, you are choosing to trust in his ability to handle things far beyond your human understanding. You are giving God room to work in the situation in ways you cannot even imagine. Too often, we try to control the outcome of our struggles, to manipulate situations and people, and to shape the course of events according to our desires. But this creates unnecessary stress and confusion because we are limited by our own perspective. We see things only in the here and now, while God sees the entire picture, the past, the present, and the future all at once. His ways are not our ways, and his thoughts are far higher than our thoughts. What seems like a setback in your life might be a setup for something greater that you can't yet see. When you leave it to God, you allow him to take control and bring forth the perfect resolution, one that aligns with his divine plan for your life. One of the most difficult things about relinquishing control is the element of timing. We often want things to be resolved on our own timetable, but God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own expectations. We might want immediate results, we might want to see justice right away, but God's timing allows for the full unfolding of his purpose. In waiting on God, you may not always understand why something is delayed or why you have to endure a particular situation for longer than you expected. But what you don't see is that God is working behind the scenes, preparing the right moment to act. He is working on the hearts of people, preparing the circumstances and aligning everything in such a way that when he moves, the outcome will be beyond what you could have imagined. When you let go, you release yourself from the pressure of controlling the timing of events, and you begin to trust that God's timing is perfect for your ultimate good. Releasing control also means surrendering your fears. Fear often comes from not knowing what will happen next, from worrying about the unknown, or from thinking that things will never improve. But when you let go and let God, you are choosing to place your trust in the one who holds your future in his hands. Fear cannot coexist with faith. If you believe that God has the power to handle your problems, if you believe that he is working on your behalf, then fear must bow down to faith. The Bible says, do not be afraid, for I am with you, Isaiah 41:10. God is with you in the midst of the storm, and he will not abandon you. You are not in this fight alone. The moment you let go of your need to control and surrender it to God, you open yourself up to his perfect peace that will guard your heart and mind, and you can face each day with a renewed sense of hope, knowing that he has already taken care of what you cannot. When you let go, you also give God permission to move in ways that will benefit you in the long term, even if it means challenging your comfort zone. Sometimes God will allow certain things to happen in our lives that force us to grow, to stretch, and to learn new things. These challenges are not meant to destroy you, but to strengthen your faith, build your character, and prepare you for the greater things he has in store for you. You may not understand it now, but what you are going through is shaping you for the future. By letting go, you trust that God is refining you, purifying you, and preparing you for something greater than what you could have imagined. It is in this surrender that you open the door for transformation, not just in the situation, but in yourself. The beauty of leaving it to God is that it takes the burden off of your shoulders. The stress, the worry, the mental and emotional exhaustion, it all begins to fade when you stop trying to handle it yourself. The weight of control is heavy. It can rob you of your joy, your peace, and your clarity. But when you release it, you free yourself from this burden. You allow your heart to rest in the knowledge that God is in control, and he will make sure that everything works out in the way that is best for you. When you let go, you stop carrying the load that was never meant for you to carry. You allow God to take that weight and to replace it with his peace. And in that peace, you will find rest for your soul, renewal for your spirit, and strength for the journey ahead. When you let go and leave it to God, you enter a realm of freedom and release that is unlike anything you can experience when you hold on to a situation. The truth is, when we try to control the outcome of every situation in our lives, we become trapped in a cycle of anxiety, frustration, and endless striving. We are constantly worried about the next move, the next step, and how things will unfold. But when we finally release the burden of trying to manage it all and place it in God's hands, we experience the profound freedom that comes from trusting in his wisdom and power. Letting go is not an act of weakness or defeat. It is an act of faith and trust in the God who controls everything. It's acknowledging that there are things beyond our control, and we need God's intervention to bring about the best possible outcome. The freedom that comes from letting go is not only emotional and mental, but spiritual as well. When we try to control everything, we are not fully surrendered to God's will. We may say we trust him, but deep down, we're still holding onto the reins, trying to dictate how things should unfold. But when you truly let go, you are saying, God, I trust your plan. I trust your purpose. I trust that you know what's best for me. This surrender allows you to experience the kind of peace that surpasses all understanding. No longer do you need to stay up late worrying about things you cannot change. No longer do you need to carry the weight of unresolved situations on your shoulders. Instead, you can rest in the assurance that God is at work, orchestrating things behind the scenes, and that the outcome will always be aligned with his greater purpose for your life. This freedom is a powerful tool for spiritual growth. As you let go of the need to control, you also let go of the fear that comes with not knowing the future. Fear often stems from a desire to hold on to things we cannot manage. But when we trust God, we release that fear and embrace his peace. Fear and trust cannot coexist in the same heart. The more you let go of your desire to control, the more you make space for God's perfect peace to flood your soul. You begin to experience a deeper sense of spiritual freedom, a freedom that empowers you to live boldly and confidently, knowing that whatever comes your way, God is in control and he is working it all out for your good. The battles you face are no longer burdens, they become opportunities for God to show his faithfulness, his power, and his provision in your life. Letting go also empowers you to forgive and to heal. Often, our inability to release situations and people into God's hands comes from an unwillingness to forgive. We hold on to offenses, to the hurt, to the wrongs that have been done to us because we feel we need to protect ourselves or we feel the need for justice. But true healing cannot occur as long as we hold on to those grudges. The act of letting go is an act of forgiveness. It's saying, God, I release the person who hurt me. I trust you with my pain, and I trust you to deal with the person who wronged me. Forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about your freedom. When you let go, you open the door for God's healing to flow into your life. You release the hold that bitterness and anger have on your heart, and you allow peace to take root. The longer you hold on to hurt, the longer it controls you. But when you let go, you release the grip that pain has on your heart, and you make room for God's healing presence. And don't forget, the most powerful aspect of letting go is the ultimate act of faith in God's sovereignty. To trust God completely with every situation in your life, to let go of your need to control, is to say that you believe he is who he says he is. You are proclaiming that he is the Almighty, the creator of the universe, and the one who holds your life in his hands. To let go is to recognize that his wisdom, his love, and his purpose are far greater than anything you could ever comprehend. By letting go, you affirm that you believe God is working everything together for your good. Even when you don't see it, it's an acknowledgement that God's plan is far greater than your own, and that his ways, though mysterious, are always good. Letting go is not passive. It's a bold declaration of trust in the God who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. When you leave it to God, you are not just surrendering the burden of the situation, but also the need for validation. Often in our lives, we feel the pressure to prove ourselves, to defend our actions, to justify our decisions, and to seek approval from others. This is especially true when we've been hurt, wronged, or misunderstood. We want people to see things our way, to know that we were right or that our intentions were pure. But in truth, this desire for validation can weigh us down and prevent us from moving forward. It keeps us trapped in a cycle of seeking external affirmation instead of trusting in the inner affirmation that comes from God alone. When we let go and leave it to God, we free ourselves from this constant need for validation. We no longer need to justify ourselves to people who may never understand our journey, nor do we need to prove ourselves to anyone. God, in his wisdom, knows the truth about who we are. He knows the intentions of our hearts, and he understands the circumstances that shape our actions. When we allow God to take over, we acknowledge that his opinion of us is the only one that truly matters. His approval is the only validation we need. The beauty of this is that God's validation is not based on performance, public opinion, or external circumstances. It is based on his love and his understanding of who we are at our core. And our challenges. He sees the heart behind every action, and that's the validation that truly matters. When you leave it to God, you are giving him the authority to defend you, to show the world who you truly are, and to elevate you in his perfect timing. In releasing the need for validation, you also release the toxic influence of comparison. So many times we find ourselves comparing our success, our relationships, or even our personal growth to the lives of others. We see people who appear to have everything together and feel discouraged because our path seems much harder or slower. But comparison is the thief of joy. When we look at others through the lens of comparison, we fail to see the unique journey God has designed for us. We forget that each person's purpose and timing are different, and that what is happening in someone else's life does not diminish the greatness of what God is doing in ours. When you let go and leave it to God, you stop comparing yourself to others and begin to focus on the beautiful and unique purpose He has for you. You stop measuring your worth by the achievements of others and start valuing yourself according to the calling God has placed on your life. This freedom from comparison allows you to celebrate your own growth, embrace your own path, and trust that God's plan for you is just as significant as anyone else's. Lastly, when you release the need for validation and leave it to God, you become less concerned with the opinions of others and more focused on fulfilling your divine purpose. When you are constantly seeking validation, you are distracted from your true calling. You spend your energy trying to please people instead of pursuing the mission that God has entrusted to you. But when you let go of this need for external approval, you align your focus on the work God has called you to do. You become more intentional in your actions and decisions, knowing that your worth is not tied to what others think, but to the purpose God has placed in you. This clarity of purpose empowers you to take bold steps forward, to pursue your dreams, and to fulfill your destiny without being weighed down by the need to prove yourself to anyone else. Letting go of validation gives you the freedom to be your true self and to pursue the life God has uniquely designed for you. When you leave it to God, you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. In life, we often find ourselves entangled in situations where we feel the need to defend ourselves, our actions, or our beliefs. Whether it's a conflict at work, an argument in a relationship, or a misunderstanding with a friend, we can easily slip into the mindset that we must battle every issue head on. We feel compelled to win every argument, to prove ourselves right, and to assert our position in the face of opposition. But the reality is, many of the struggles we face are not meant for us to fight. God has already promised that He will fight for us. He is the ultimate defender of our lives, our integrity, and our purpose. When we truly trust God and leave it to Him, we let go of the pressure to constantly engage in battles that drain us, both physically and emotionally. We surrender the fight to the one who is greater than any challenge or adversary we face. This shift in mindset is liberating. It releases us from the need to prove our worth, to assert ourselves in every situation, and to protect our reputation at all costs. Often, the desire to control a situation stems from a fear that if we don't intervene, we will lose something valuable, whether it's respect, love, or security. But God assures us that He is our protector and that He will fight for us in ways we could never imagine. Instead of battling on our own, we trust that He will take care of what we cannot control. We are called to walk in peace, to trust that God's justice will prevail, and to let go of the need to prove our innocence or fight for validation. By leaving it to God, we embrace His divine intervention and His perfect timing, knowing that He will handle the situation with justice and wisdom far beyond our own understanding. Another important aspect of leaving the battle to God is that it allows you to focus on your purpose instead of becoming consumed by distractions. When we are caught up in fighting battles, especially those that are outside of our control, we often lose sight of our greater purpose. We become fixated on proving a point, defending ourselves, or confronting every issue that arises. But these distractions take us off course and divert our energy away from the meaningful work that God has called us to do. When you let go of the battle, you free yourself from these distractions and can focus on the work that God has placed in your hands. The more you focus on what God is calling you to do, the less time and energy you have to engage in conflicts that do not serve your greater purpose. By leaving the battle to God, you are freed up to align your life with His will, pursue your destiny, and serve others in a way that glorifies Him. Leaving the battle to God also teaches us humility. The act of surrendering the fight acknowledges that we are not the ultimate authority in the situation and that we cannot control everything. It requires a level of humility to recognize that God's wisdom far surpasses our own and that His plan for our lives is far greater than anything we could imagine. When we let go and trust God with our battles, we admit that we need His intervention and that we cannot do it alone. This is an act of surrender that places God in His rightful position as Lord over our lives. Humility in this context is not a sign of weakness, but of strength, because it reflects a deep trust in God's sovereignty. It's saying, I may not understand why this is happening, but I trust that you know what's best for me, and I will rest in that truth. Finally, leaving it to God allows us to witness his power and faithfulness in ways we never could if we insisted on fighting every battle ourselves. When we take a step back and trust God to handle the situations that we can't control, we create an opportunity for him to move on our behalf. We give him space to show his power, his grace, and his wisdom. And when he steps in, he does so in a way that far exceeds what we could ever do on our own. God doesn't need our help to accomplish his will. When we trust him with the outcome, we become witnesses to his greatness. We begin to see how he works in ways that are beyond our comprehension. His methods may not always align with our timing or our expectations, but his ways are always perfect. When we leave it to God, we set the stage for him to reveal his glory, his justice, and his mercy in a way that will leave us in awe of his ability to fight for us. The battle is no longer ours, it is his. And when we trust him, we get to see firsthand how he triumphs in every situation. When you choose to leave it to God, you are not condoning the wrongdoing of others. Instead, you are choosing to trust that God is just and that he will deal with the situation in his perfect way. God's justice is not like human justice. It is not about revenge, punishment, or retribution. Instead, it is about restoration, reconciliation, and the ultimate good of everyone involved. God promises that he will repay the wrongdoer in his own time and according to his will. This doesn't mean that you stop seeking reconciliation or standing up for what's right. It means that you allow God to take the lead in how the situation is handled. You trust that his way is higher, his timing is perfect, and his judgment is far more righteous than anything you could ever bring to the table. By releasing the need for vengeance, you give God the space to work in ways that you cannot even imagine. Moreover, leaving bitterness and unforgiveness in God's hands brings a profound sense of peace. Holding on to anger and resentment takes a toll on your emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. It stirs up anxiety, fear, and stress, which can impact your health, your relationships, and your overall sense of joy. However, when you release those negative emotions to God, you create an environment where peace can flourish. You stop rehearsing the hurt in your mind, and you stop imagining ways to get even. You allow yourself to be free from the internal turmoil that comes with holding on to pain. This peace is not dependent on the actions of others, but is rooted in the trust that God is in control. You no longer need to worry about what the other person did or didn't do. Instead, you focus on God's promise to bring healing and to make all things right in his time. Finally, when you leave it to God, you position yourself to experience the fullness of his love and grace. The Bible teaches us that forgiveness is not just a gift we give to others, it is also a gift we give to ourselves. By choosing to forgive, you are aligning yourself with the heart of God, who forgives us even when we fall short. You reflect his grace and mercy in your life when you choose to let go of the pain and choose love instead of bitterness. This allows you to experience God's love more deeply and to become a conduit of that love to others. As you forgive, you open up the flow of God's grace in your life, which transforms you and equips you to extend that same grace to others. When you leave it to God, you are choosing to release the past, trust in his perfect plan, and step into a future filled with his peace, his justice, and his love. Leaving it to God allows you to tap into his divine timing, which is always perfect and far greater than our own understanding. As human beings, we are often impatient. We want things to happen on our terms according to our own schedule. We are constantly measuring success by how quickly things are achieved, and when things don't unfold as quickly as we desire, we become anxious, frustrated, and sometimes even doubtful. But the truth is, God's timing is not our timing, and his understanding of what we need, and when we need it, far surpasses anything we could orchestrate on our own. When we leave it to God, we trust that he knows what is best for us, and that he will make all things beautiful in his time. In our world today, everything moves at such a fast pace, instant gratification is often just a click away. This culture of immediacy can create a distorted view of how life is supposed to unfold. We expect quick results, whether it's in our careers, relationships, or personal growth. We tend to forget that great things, the truly valuable things, often take time to develop. Just like a seed needs time to grow into a strong and fruitful tree, our dreams and purposes need time to mature. When we leave it to God, we align ourselves with His timing and stop rushing ahead, trying to force things to happen before they are meant to. We trust that the journey is just as important as the destination, and that each step along the way is shaping us into the person we need to be in order to fully embrace the blessings He has for us. Sometimes we look at our circumstances and wonder why things aren't happening faster. We question why certain doors are not opening or why we are stuck in a season of waiting. But God's delays are never denials. His timing often protects us from situations or decisions that we are not yet ready for. In the moment, we may not understand why certain opportunities haven't materialized or why we are facing obstacles, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows what lies ahead. He knows the challenges we will face in the future, and He is preparing us for those moments even when we cannot see it. By leaving it to God, we trust that He is working behind the scenes, setting everything in place according to His plan. His delay is not denial, it is protection and preparation. We also need to realize that when we try to force things to happen on our own timeline, we often end up in situations that are not aligned with God's purpose for us. We may seek instant solutions only to find that those solutions come with consequences that we are not prepared to handle. We make decisions based on our limited view of the future, and in doing so, we may unknowingly set ourselves up for failure or regret. God, however, sees the bigger picture. His timing is perfect because it is based on His full understanding of what we need, what we can handle, and what will bring us the most growth. When we leave it to God, we trust that He will open the right doors at the right time and close the wrong ones, even when we don't understand why certain things aren't working out the way we thought they would. Furthermore, trusting in God's timing brings a sense of peace that we cannot experience when we are anxious or trying to control the outcome ourselves. When we leave the timing of our lives in God's hands, we let go of the pressure to manipulate circumstances or rush into decisions. We stop worrying about whether we are missing out or falling behind. We trust that God will bring everything into place exactly when it's meant to be, and that in His time we will see the fruit of our labor, the fulfillment of our dreams, and the answers to our prayers. This peace comes from knowing that we are not alone in the process. We are not left to figure it all out on our own. God is with us every step of the way, and He is orchestrating the perfect timing for everything in our lives. It's also important to recognize that the timing of God's plan is designed for our ultimate good and His glory. His delays and the timing of His actions are meant to build our character, strengthen our faith, and teach us patience. We grow in the waiting. We learn to trust God more deeply and to rely on His wisdom rather than our own understanding. We experience a deeper sense of humility and surrender when we learn to wait on God's perfect timing. And when everything finally falls into place, we will look back and see that the waiting period was not a waste, it was a crucial part of the journey. God's timing, though it may be difficult at times to understand, is always in our best interest. When we leave it to Him, we trust that He is not only preparing us for the right opportunities, but also positioning us to make the greatest impact for His kingdom. In every season, in every trial, and in every waiting moment, God's timing is at work. When we stop rushing, when we stop pushing, when we stop trying to make things happen on our own, we align ourselves with the flow of His perfect timing. We stop fighting against the current and begin to flow with it, trusting that God's plan for us will unfold exactly as He has designed it. And when we look back on the journey, we will see how His timing was always spot on, even when we couldn't see the way ahead. We will look at the fruits of our lives, the blessings we've received, and the lessons we've learned, and we will know without a doubt that leaving it to God was the best decision we ever made. In conclusion, leaving it to God is not just an act of surrender, it's a declaration of trust in His perfect plan, His divine timing, and His unshakable justice. When we stop trying to control every outcome and instead release our burdens into His capable hands, we open ourselves up to peace, healing, and divine purpose. God's timing is never wrong. His ways are higher than ours, and His plans for us are filled with hope and a future. Trusting in God's ability to handle every situation not only brings us peace, but it allows us to grow in character, in patience, and in faith. So whatever you're facing today, whatever struggles, betrayals, or doubts you may have, remember, you don't have to carry them alone. Leave them to God, for he will work everything together for your good. His timing is perfect, and he will make all things beautiful in his time.